I pulled off the highway, into a small town, the western half of it anyway, looking for a place to rest, trying to mend a broken heart. It was a clear summer afternoon. Hot, lazy. According to the town sign, its population was 38,000, but I saw barely anyone in the streets. The shops, banks, and offices were open, but there was nobody around. Every once in a while, a warm breeze blew, whispering through the thick leaves of mighty trees, disturbing if only gently the near otherworldly stillness of the place. I stopped finally at a lodging called the Fifth Inn of the highway, walked across the freshly asphalt parking lot, which felt hot even through the soles of my shoes, and entered to the sound of bells. Blessed A/C. A woman sat behind the front counter reading a magazine. She put it down. "May I help you, traveler?" she asked. I explained I needed a room. "You must be an awful way from home," she said, "because you don't sound much like a local highwayer." I told her where I was from and why I was far away from there. Romance. It sure will get you moving. Even over the sound of the A/C I could hear another sound, another droning. The woman must have noticed my noticing, because she said, "You hear that, eh?" "Yes. We call that the humbuzz. Or sometimes the rumble wheeze." "What is it?" "One of the songs of the highway." "The interstate?" I asked. "That's what outsiders call it, sure. The only way into town, and the only way out. You must have come that way yourself." I admitted I did. I noticed that the magazine she'd been reading, the one she'd put down when I'd entered, was from 1957. "You come at a good time," she continued. "When even outsiders hear the humbuzz, it means the day is close." "What day?" I asked. "And what did you mean by one of the songs of the highway? And is there really no other way out of here? You sure ask a lot of questions," she said, and for a moment I thought I had offended her. Her eyes thinned, then bloomed open, accompanied by a smile. "That's good. Very, very good. Sorry. I didn't mean to interrogate. Let me start with the last. There are no other roads into and out of town. So no other way by car. There were, of course, before the highway, but they've been let to settle into a state of utter disrepair. As for what I meant by songs, I meant it the way it's meant. Just as a bird sings, the highway sings. Each song, saying a different thing, marking a different occasion. The humbuzz, for example, is a hunger song. So when I say the day, I mean the feast day." She smiled again. I wasn't sure how to respond. She had answered my questions without helping me understand. Indeed, what she was saying sounded crazy. "It helps to understand the history of this place," she said to break my silence. "Every place has its experiences from which its traditions are born. Before the highway, this town wasn't much of anything. An outpost. Then the highway came. First just 2 lanes, but even those helped the town grow. Traders stopped by. Travelers such as yourself. Some passed through, leaving only their money. Others stayed, contributing lifeblood to the community. Over time the highway expanded, from 2 lanes to 4, to the 16 you see today. 8 lanes each way, she said, her voice inflected with emotion. My God, how it's grown. Is there a museum, or perhaps somewhere I could learn more about this history? I asked. I was feeling a distinct urge to back away, out the front door of the inn, to my car. No real museum. Our history is more of what they call oral history. Passed down from generation to generation, you understand. But if you want to see the real heart of the town where all the great things happen, I would suggest the overpass. The overpass. There's only one, spanning the glorious width of the highway and connecting this, here, western half of town with the eastern half. That does sound interesting, I said. I think I will go see it. Thank you. With that I turned and walked toward the exit. My heart was beating incongruously quickly, as if it knew somehow more deeply than even my mind that there was a wrongness to this place. If you still want a room, there are plenty available. Come back soon, she yelled after me. The bells bid me goodbye and I returned to the blistering heat of the outside. Once safely in my car, I exhaled, started the engine and retraced my route, heading back to the highway on-ramp only to find that it had been closed. Construction pylons blocked the way, and a teenager in a reflective vest, holding a stop sign, loitered off to the side. I rolled down my window. Hey, I yelled. He ambled over. Yo. The Humbuzz was almost overbearing this close to the highway. Cars sped past unceasingly. How long is the ramp closed for? I asked. Oh, dunno. Until the other end of the feast day, I guess. That's how it usually goes. So it's not closed for repairs. He took this as an affront. My guy, he sputtered. Like, don't even say that out loud, okay? Like, wipe it from your mind. Repairs. We keep the highway, every little part of it, feeling good all the time. So you could let me through, I said. He stood, leaning on his stop sign. I rephrased. Will you please let me through? No one has to know. When he still didn't react, I added, I could make it worth your while. Listen, guy. I would know, okay. Me and the highway, and that's enough. I suggest you, like, find a bed and wait it out or something. And, count yourself lucky I don't turn you into the highway patrol. Turn me in for what? For trying to circumvent traditions, he said. Trying to pay me off. Trying to make use of the highway during non-use times. Fine, I said. I turned the car around, drove aimlessly for half an hour, taking in the empty streets and highway-themed businesses, bank of the big road, median mart, a pub called the Unpaved Shoulder, before deciding to park in a small lot outside a grocery store, Blacktop's Vitals, and try to get some sleep. I was startled awake by a flashlight to the face. I jumped. Two faces were peering in through my driver's side window. The one belonging to the highway patrolman not holding the flashlight banged on the glass with his fist. "Get out of the vehicle, sir." I was groggy. "There's no loitering here and no vehicular shut-eye. Get out of the vehicle and show me your ID." A cop is a cop, I figured. I did as told. "How long you been here?" one of the cops asked, after scrutinizing my driver's license. "Do you mean parked here, or here in town?" "In town. I guess maybe 8 hours." "You sure about that?" "Think hard, sir." "You sure it's less than 24 hours?" "I'm sure," I said. The highway patrolmen grinned at one another. I noticed, then, that even though it was now late in the evening, the streets were filled with people. Men, women, children. All speaking and laughing and going generally in one direction. "Here's what's gonna happen," said the patrolman who'd banged on my window. "It's a feast day, so we're not going to cite you today. But you're not gonna get back in your vehicle. You're gonna come with us. In fact, see those people over there?" He pointed at a disparate group of about a dozen people, being propelled forward by the rest of the crowd. "I want you to join up with them, do what they do. Enjoy yourself." Preferring not to get on the bad side of local law enforcement, I obliged. Whereas before the fact there was no one outside had seemed eerie, the sheer number of people out and about now seemed impossible. It was as if all 38,000 of the townspeople had left their homes. The humbuzz was deafening. When I neared the group I was supposed to join up with, one of them, a young woman, caught my attention, asked me, "Are you a tourist?" "I guess you could say that," I yelled over the noise. "I'm a student." "Anthropology major," she yelled back. "Isn't it amazing, being able to experience something like this?" "Something like what?" "I told you the day was at hand, my dear," said a familiar voice. It was the woman from the 5th inn of the highway. "That's Salma," said the student. "She's one of the initiates this year. She's letting me witness so that I can describe it all in a paper I'm writing." Salma took my hand in hers. "Yes," she said. "We absolutely love when outsiders take an interest in our little town." "And where exactly are we going?" I asked. "To the overpass." It soon loomed into view, a long, dark structure across the endless motion of the highway, painted luminescently at night by the blurring red and white lights of the cars passing north and south, going from somewhere to somewhere. The crowd organized itself into several groups. One, the largest, remained at a distance from the overpass, observing. Another became a line that ascended the steps of the overpass one by one like marching ants. Salma belonged to this one. I was part of the third group, by far the smallest. My group waited. "What's going on?" I asked the student. "The people inside, they're preparing for the ritual. The observers are praying, summoning the spirit of the highway." And us, what are we doing? Waiting, she said. When the spirit has been summoned and the overpass purified and prepared, we'll be let in to witness. Cars roared on the highway. I don't think I can stand the humbuzz getting any louder. I can barely hear anything. She laughed. Humbuzz? This isn't the humbuzz anymore. It's the blood thunder. My pulse quickened. I could barely repeat the words, blood thunder. The song of the feasting. Then just like that. Silence. All the din and noise gone, sliced away. I could hear my own breathing. Heavy, unsettled. How I longed to be back in my car. My city. My life. I had broken up with her, but I would have done anything to have her back, to feel her body against mine. I would have forgiven her for everything. A voice that sounded like bones dragged across cracked asphalt commanded us to enter. And so we did. Single file up the stairs and into the overpass. It would have been entirely dark inside if not for the glass floor below which, cars and trucks and RVs thundered silently by, illuminating the interior in wisps of ghostly whites and bloody, vivid red. Walking on the floor felt like floating above the world. I was ninth in line. When the first person had reached the middle of the overpass, we stopped. A word was said, a vile, inhuman word. A hole in the floor uncovered. Wind rushed in. Wind and the smell of car exhaust, burning gasoline and oil. And the hole screamed. I swear it screamed like a man dying from hunger screams for food. From the highway I came, and to the highway I shall return, a voice said, and the first person in line repeated. Ahead of me, I saw the student shift uncomfortably. Then two figures grabbed the first person in line and thrust him headfirst into the hole. I shut my eyes. I merely heard the impact. Below, the traffic did not cease. It did not pause or stutter. It just flowed on, having absorbed the sacrificial body of the man thrown down the hole. It had obliterated him, atomized him into a million particles of flesh, each of which ended up on a windshield of a vehicle, to be wiped away by wipers no differently than a splattered insect or a drop of rain. This was followed by the almost miraculous change of the whole scream into a beautiful song. Temporarily. When the scream became again, the next in line repeated the ritual words, "From the highway I came, and to the highway I shall return," and was fed to the spirit of the highway. It is difficult for me to explain how I felt then, as the line shortened, scream became song became scream again, and I stepped ever closer to the hole. I didn't want to die, but neither did I yearn to live. I kept picturing her face. Why had I left her? When came the student's turn, she resisted. She resisted to the very brutal end, yelling about how they had tricked her, how she was here only to learn, to observe, and analyze. How they were all monsters, savages, no better than the godless tribes who'd welcomed guests into their camps and flayed and cooked and eaten them. And drop smash, a human mist sprayed across speeding cars. I was ready. I truly was ready. listening to the beautiful song, waiting for it to end, for the scream to return, scared horribly of death but accepting of it. But the song didn't end. On and on it continued, until the hole was shut, the wind receded to a breeze, a warm, summer breeze whispering through leaves, and a voice said, "Let us now rejoice, for it is satiated." And outside, beyond the overpass, 38,000 people in unison chanted, "Long may it nurture and bisect us." Who remained of us were then led out of the overpass and down the stairs. The inhabitants of the town celebrated long into the dawn, but I made my way promptly to my car. The on-ramp was still closed and I didn't want to risk sleeping in my car, so I drove to the 5th inn of the highway, where I waited for Salma. When she arrived, still under the ecstatic influence of that night's events, I paid for a room. In the morning, when I returned my key, she asked me if I had given any thought to staying in town. I said no, and sensed the pylons blocking the on-ramp being taken away. Sure enough, the ramp was clear and I merged onto the highway and drove away. In the rear view, I saw the town, both halves of it, disappear into the indistinguishable distance. That was all many years ago now. Since then, I have driven across the country many times. Never have I found that town again. I've also been unable to locate it on a map. But every once in a while, when I'm on a highway and the sun goes down, I hear, faintly, as if from behind a concrete wall, or, perhaps, the wooden sides of a coffin, the humbuzz. At those times, I stay on the highway, press the accelerator and drive away, switching on the wipers even on clear summer days. Just in case.